But welcome back to, this will be my second live stream, and like the first was a first for me being live, this is special because I have another real human with me. James Hilton, thank you for joining me. Oh no, I'm joining you actually, aren't I?
You are, yeah. Hello everybody, nice to be here.
The reason I'm here, that's funny that hasn't come on there. Hey. It's very weird that we can hear ourselves in the camera though.
It is.
Anyway.
Well, we're on there.
Oh yeah, oh, look at us lurching over. Oh, so weird. Right, if we look at the book then, so your new book is Model Railway Companion. So from your words, because I know your angle with this book really was to have the explanation of the layouts from the builders themselves.
Yes.
So I want your explanation of the book from yourself.
Yes. Well, I don't know about you lot, but I love books, and I don't know if that's just because of my age. But I grew up reading books in the library when I was little, and I used to try and get out. I've got a bit.
I can hold some books.
For example, this is like I bought this recently on eBay. It's a book from my childhood, and I've got a bit of a thing at the minute of collecting books that I remember from my childhood. So passion of books goes back a long way. And one thing I remember about those annuals is that we were very photo heavy and photo led. So I've written 2 books previously. About layout design, really small layout design, with sort of some more of the theory and trying to talk people through some ideas. The first book's quite a lot of more technical theory. The second book starts to talk about rather than just pure sort of design theory, starts to say actually what story you're trying to tell, because we're all trying to tell a story.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so, but these books are obviously instructional by their nature in some ways. And I wanted to kind of go, like, just be really, really massively indulgent. And I don't know about you guys, I love it when you pick up a magazine and it's just got pictures across the whole page. So this book is, indulgently illustrated. You've got full page images right across. So it's driven by a desire to take, I suppose, sort of the technical stuff and illustrate it in a way that kind of gives you all inspiration. So I've collected what I think are great model railways. Yes, obviously. Couple of mine in here as well, from all over the world. So we've got British stuff, European stuff, American stuff, Canadian stuff, narrow gauge. And I asked George to contribute because we've got the sort of steam era, we've got BR Blue, we've got Steelworks industrial layouts, we've got GWR. We didn't have anything narrow gauge, and I knew George had been building Corrish. Because I remember going over to see very
well. You had I don't know if I said on the channel at one point, but through the planning stages, you were there to sort of.
I remember like leaning over it on the floor and saying, "Why don't we just get rid of the back seat?"
Yeah. Well, that was the problem. It was the original idea for Corris was that the train was going to go in just into woodlands at the back, and it'd go off scene. And James, he was like, "Why is it going off scene at such a small layout?" It's like, okay, we'll deal with it.
So I think I knew you were going to be building something special with it. And the photos really did show it exceptionally well. And then you and I were chatting, weren't we? And you were like, "Oh, I think I might get some kind of way of doing the mist in the valley."
Yeah.
And I was like, "George, can you get some photos that have that really gloomy look?" Because the first ones, if you guys if you get your hands on a copy of this book, I'll explain where you can get one from later. There's a photo on the back which shows one of George's photos, but that was taken in bright light.
Yeah, it's very saturated, I suppose it's very...
And so these are the photos George originally sent me, and I said, "Can you please send me some murky ones that go with the text?" Because the way George had described his memories of the Corris Railway kind of fitted with this sort of misty look. So, yeah, I mean, basically, look, life's busy, isn't it? You and I are here talking a million miles an hour. How often do we get to sit back and stop, get a cup of coffee, have a biscuit, turn your devices off? Not that you need to turn it off right now, by the way. Carry on watching.
Yeah, please leave it on.
To turn it off, sit down and just take some time to yourself and indulge in something. So George was over earlier on to set this up, and we were flicking through, and he's flicking through this book like this.
Yeah.
Saying, "Oh, it looks really nice." I said, "That's how I read it the first time." And then you sit down later, it's all a bit quieter, and you just flick through, and you just take the time to read what the artist. So these words here are written by each individual artist, the layout builder. That you kind of get into the head, and then you start looking at the pictures, and you just get totally lost in it in a really different speed, different mindset. I love it.
But the word in itself is, I think, quite unique to this book in that I've obviously written for a few articles, you've written for magazine, and it's always the same format, that this is how I do the scenery, this is where I buy my trains from. And then I sent, when James was messaging me about what to put, and you were saying, I don't care about that so much, I want to know why you're doing, not how. And it's like, oh right, okay.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, George, isn't it? Because I suppose this is a step towards something more intellectual in terms of the modelling press as well, because it's not a magazine, but it almost could be, because we've got it's basically like layout of the month, layout of the month, layout of the month, layout of the month all the way through, But I'm guessing most of you guys who watch George's videos, you're picking up tips off him, and that's great. But you don't need to be dipped into how to do everything every time you read something. So every time you pick up one of the popular magazines, every article's like a sheet dip of, I used this material to do the track, I painted it in this way, I used diluted PVA to glue down the ballast. We know!
Yeah.
Right? Why can't we just have something that's about why? So, the questions I was asking behind each artist is what drove you to build this layout? What story are you trying to tell? Or what is it about this layout that's important to you that drove you towards this completion, this state of completion that you can see here? So, yeah, you're right. I think it's different in that way.
But it's different in a good way. It's different. Like I say, we have, so even when you're writing articles for magazines, I've got, I think Hornby are sending their photographer over next week for me for Corris, and it's like, right, I'm gonna have to write another one about how I put the ballast down and things, and it's like, come on guys, like you know all about it.
You can say do it your own way.
Yeah.
So I've done a few articles for the press now where I've said I'm not doing that. So if you want my layout in your magazine, I'm going to do it my way. So in BRM recently there was an article on Lockdo. So if anyone's familiar with my stuff, Lockdo is the Scottish N-gauge little scene, and I said I'm not doing it like that. I'm going to write as if you're reading it in Traction magazine, and these are all photos.
Okay.
So it's like almost like a sort of reminisce of a journey on this fictitious branch line.
Right.
And there was nothing about technique at all. And I know Debbie's a lovely lady, the editor, and she was a bit nervous, but Andy York was, you should put this in, it's something different. And so I've done that with them, and I've done something similar with Railway Modeller as well. And Continental Modeller is great for getting slightly left field sort of stuff in. So you can say, I'm not going to tell you how to
try something different.
So this has been a really whistle-stop project as well, because it came about as an idea probably at the beginning of the year, because the Small Layout Design Handbook was 2022, I think. The Art of Railway Modelling was last year, 23. And I was saying, I feel like there's a third book in this series, but I'm not quite sure what it is. I'm speaking to Simon, who's the publisher, and I said, I've got this idea, it's a bit crazy, what do you think? And he said, yeah, go on.
Yeah.
So it kind of came about all relatively quickly. I think you had the material within about 4 or 5 weeks.
It was all quite...
And then, of course, printing. You guys think probably printing takes months and months. It took about 10 days from us to send the files off to
really?
Back, yeah.
Wow.
And then, so, it's actually gone from being on my computer screen to in my hand within about 2 or 3 weeks.
How does that feel then, seeing it in... Because obviously I still get it when I have articles and things. I'm like, I go straight to my mum. So I'm like, look at this. It's what's it like to have a whole book that you've written, essentially written, or put together at least? Yeah.
Well, as I say, so... reflecting, so I've got all these on my knee. I don't know if you can see them. When I wrote these books, these first two, I was excited because it was the first time I've ever done it. So it's like a new experience. I knew I'd done stuff in print before because I used to run a mountain bike magazine years ago. So I knew the basics, but I didn't. It was exciting to actually have something that I wanted to say published, and that was really good and whatnot. But you don't. So you show it to your mum and you show it to all your friends and family, and then kind of the excitement dies down. But you can't go into it and you can't read it because I wrote it. Whereas this one isn't I wrote. This is a compilation of other people's stuff. So I actually really enjoyed this process. Print to paper, screen to paper is amazing. I mean, it's a bit like when you get do anyone remember when you used to get photos printed? When you actually get photos printed,
and you've got them in your hand,
it's different, and it's that again. I mean, I'm lucky. I've got another thing here actually, George. Look, we'll talk about when.
I wanted to talk about that one because that's one I haven't seen yet.
So these 3 books here are published by Wild Swan.
Right.
So these sort of landscape books. Wild Swan. For those of us who've been around long enough to remember, Wild Swan is very sort of respected and long-standing publishing house in sort of railway modelling. Railway publishing. So I was really, 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 really honoured to be involved with these guys and through this. And Simon's been ace, Simon runs it. But publishing this way, obviously, you sort of hand over, your life to the publisher to some degree, because you kind of put the product together. You get backwards and forwards and editing. But the compendium was me having a play. So this is this is printed by Blurb in the Netherlands.
Oh right, okay.
Right. So you download some software. Well, I did it on my actual laptop in some proper software. But you can actually download their software and create your own publication, your own magazine, and then get it sent off. And they print it, and it's back within about sort of 6 or 7 days. It turns up. So I said on my blog, it was the same sort of feeling. I wanted something that was unplugged, So I know we're sat here on YouTube, talking about being unplugged, but I think it's really important. I think it is really important to slow down and switch off. So this was another attempt at that, and so the compendium is actually my blog turned into a book.
Okay.
So it's bits off my blog bits of writing that I've done on my blog, because I write on my blog every day. And it's different to you. I know you do a video every week, and I can't imagine how much effort that takes.
It's lots. It's lots.
When I do videos, they take forever. So I have a video channel, but I just do it when I want. But I do write on my blog every day.
Yeah, I was going to bring the blog up because that's obviously like your main outlet, isn't it? Really.
It is. But I've got some stuff on there that's just you kind of turn the handle after a while. I love writing it. I love sharing it. But some stuff is a bit turn the handle. But this stuff is the stuff I was really proud of writing.
Okay.
So this is my favourite writing, and then some nice big, nice pictures of things that I'm proud of, or stories and things. So this was just a chance to have a play with Blurb, because I'd never done it before, and I wanted to see what it was like.
Yeah.
So this went from idea to design to in my hand within a month.
Wow.
So
you had them here to set. I mean, if somebody wanted to buy this, as opposed to these, which you'd find in, say, you mentioned model shops, things like that, bookshops.
I did this through my blog, so I did it as a limited run.
Okay.
So
you sent them out.
Yeah, they came in. I wrote in them. Thank you for buying this book.
Oh wow. Okay.
Sent them out. I did 60, which isn't big numbers, but it was nice to do. It was really nice, and it's very personal. So people who've got it feel like that's a very personal part.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Whereas these are kind of like middle ground. But I don't know about you. Do you get recognised places?
Well, I did. I think I said on the first one that I'm not usually on camera, so I can walk past people at an exhibition, and most of the time, the weirdest one was though. I work in schools, and I remember I went into one of my year 8 physics classes, and this girl at the front was like, "Oh," started acting a bit weird, and I was like, "Right, okay," and she was like, "Oh, do you ever like go on YouTube and stuff?" I was like, "Oh, I do have a channel, yeah." And she's like, "Oh, can you write it down so I can see what it is?" And as I was writing the name of the channel, she goes, "This is him, it's him." And I was like, What do you mean?" She's like, "I watch every video, I love your videos." I was like, "Well, how do you know who I am?" And she goes, I knew your hands. I saw it. I was like, "Right, okay. Next class, please." She recognised my hands, but no, not so much face. Sorry, that was a bit of a...
Yeah, it's a good one.
It was a funny one, but...
I remember you telling me that on the train.
Yeah, it was so weird. I was like,
I think because you and I have a very different video style, so I'll always introduce my work like face to face, face to the camera, because I want to invite people into my house, into my space, into my heart, without being too cliches, to understand what's going on and what I'm driven by. Whereas I'm less about the how-to. So I love your stuff because you spend ages, sort of taking people on the journey through the process. Whereas I'm kind of hopefully a bit more. That's just different.
You're like philosophical, you could say, about modelling, aren't you? In a way, you do sort of, because I watched. One of them was the ballasting one, and I remember sitting and watching it and thinking, "Oh my god, like I just try and get ballasting done."
Mindful ballasting.
Mindful ballasting.
The totally random video ideas that was. So I get recognised in public.
Right.
So that's quite nice, because you get people coming over and they start chatting to you and they say, they come up to you, "James."
Yeah.
You're like, "Yeah."
"What do you want?"
"Hello." "Oh, I thought it was you." And then they start having a conversation. "Oh, I bought all your books," or whatever. And you just have a chat to them and they feel really connected. And I think it's a lovely thing, because that then gives people who didn't buy this, who read regularly, but people who know me, who've read the books or whatever, you've got to be friendly and personal. I love meeting people and chatting to them and listening to what their ideas are.
But I think that's one thing. I know we say it about railway modelling. Not everyone, obviously, there are the exceptions, but people tend to be nice and friendly. And you go to an exhibition, and did my Huncliffe, and I met people who watch the channel and they come and talk, and it's like it's almost like you know each other, but you don't. It's a weird connection.
Yeah, that's totally true.
But it's lovely.
I think there's certain people that you meet when you're out and about that you do feel like you've known a long time. Yeah, it's because they know quite a lot about what you're doing, and you feel like you've shared that part of you, so it's open and out there anyway. So yeah, it's a great thing.
Well, we were in London. I was saying before we me and my family went down to London to see the Taylor Swift exhibition things, and you know, you're saying about knowing people, but she was sure she didn't know me as I was chasing her. Maybe next time I'll say we have met.
Yeah.
Yeah, but okay, yeah. So the book, where do you get it from? Because I've got mine waiting for me when I get home, hopefully today.
Crossed, yeah. So I know it is for sale in a number of the good railway bookshops. So I've spotted them. So it's published by Wild Swan, and so Wild Swan, the chap who runs Wild Swan, also has a bookshop. So the Titfield Thunderbolt.
Oh yeah.
But obviously anyone who knows about railways will know about the film. So
Mm-hmm.
Titfield Thunderbolt have them, and obviously support Simon if you can, and if you go and you want to buy my other books, he's got them too. He's got loads of books. Bit of a plug for Simon. He's a really, really nice man.
So all the books are available apart from that, I'm assuming, as well.
Compendium isn't available.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll put that one away.
Yes.
So all the books are available through him, but I know Rail Books have got them. Bill Hudson's got them. And where did I see him? Another one. Bill. Oh, I can't remember. There's another. Anyway. So all
you see them at exhibitions as well, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's funny, isn't it? When that's where. Did we went to Manchester, and it was this. The book was there on the table. And I went,
that's me. That's me.
and actually, joking aside, so we've said where it's from. So the new book's £14.50. The old ones are £17.50 and £18.50. So
okay.
Anyway, back to where I actually took one yesterday to Chester.
Right.
I went to see Pete Waterman and the Railnuts project.
Oh, in the cathedral.
And I thought, I'll just see if Pete Waterman's there. I'm just going to see if I can sort of get a copy near him. And then I decided I wasn't going to just go and be like this fanboy and give him a copy and say, oh, yeah. So I went over and I was just chatting to the guys who were around him, the team, and I said, look, you guys, what you guys are doing here is great. It's really encouraging and enthusing the hobby for young people. It's making it more, it's normalising it for a lot of people as well. So people who've had an interest in it feel that it can come in. But I said, and I've prepared this, and I love modern railways, and just leave it around the back and let people have a look at it. As the team when you're having a break. So I'm wandering around, and let's say someone came over and chatted to me there yesterday. Said hello, I did a little see you from the website, and I was flicking over to see if Pete was having a look. So I saw a lot of the team have a look at it, and it's funny because he's there building this building, and then just on the corner of the table is model railway companion like this. It's like product placement. But
he was. I saw his. I think it was was it Model Key World they did at the NEC. I went to that, and he was. I didn't meet him. I've never seen him in person, and it was quite a good show he put on actually. With because I'm not. It's impressive the layout, but it's obviously you like shelf things, I like fairly small things, but it's impressive to see. But it was just a show he put on, and at one point he was shouting at his their staff from over the barriers with everyone else, and he was like, "What are you doing? Get this train going!" and all this. And I was like, "Wow, what a guy!"
Yeah, no, I think he's good with the public, isn't he? Obviously.
Yeah, he's a really good public.
It was interesting to feel that it's just like a strange sense of publicity because these aren't these are printed in relatively normal numbers for books, but they're not huge numbers. They're not numbers like we're expecting. I think I've probably got more subscribers on my small channel than copies of certainly of the second book that were printed. So if everyone on the channel bought a copy, it would have sold out. So, but it feels different having a book. So and I hope you enjoy seeing your layout in it because it is different.
I do, it's
something that can sit on the shelf, isn't it? And you can pull it out and enjoy it. But you can also feel like, there's people in here. So I put there's a Dutch guy in here, and he was absolutely blown away when I asked if he put his layout in. He's like, "What? I'm going to be in a book with Lance Mindheim."
Yeah, I was like, that's what I said. There's layouts in here. Like, I thought, okay, James is going to ask me because we know each other, and we'll probably talk about in a bit the fact that we've always discussed a joint project together. And then you see other layouts that I think you sent me the draft of it, and I saw the other layouts involved. And I was like, oh no, I can't be in this. This is silly. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been a great project. And so thank you to George, but also thank you to I don't suppose anyone else who's in it will have watched this video, but if they do, then thank you for contributing.
We'll send it.
And we are hoping. I think the feedback's been really good. People have been very kind and very positive, which is always encouraging. People are saying we should do it again. So there's a good chance that Model Railway Companion will return.
Well, this was going to be my next question. You said before that would be the third one for this almost trio little series.
Yeah.
What's the idea for the next one? Is it going to be a very similar thing, or is there other ideas you have for a different style of book?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things floating around. Well, loads of things floating around as usual with me and ideas.
Yeah.
Model Railway Companion is likely to return in the same format with a 2.
Yes.
Written on here, next year, probably end of next year.
Okay.
And we'll do the same thing again. And I'm hoping that this one encourages some people to sort of either submit material or feel happy to do it, which would be lovely. So I can have less of my own stuff in it next time.
Yeah.
So
okay.
yeah, Model Railway Companion 2 will exist now. I think Simon sees it as a potential thing that we can do a couple of times. maybe
Okay.
3 or 4
Like
times.
you've mentioned before about the fact that you have these annuals at the end of the year.
Exactly, yeah.
I remember.
I mean, if it come out at Christmas, this would be perfect.
That'd be brilliant, yeah.
So, you know, Christmas present, by the way, for anyone who likes these things. So Model Railway Companion 2 will happen. The first book I wrote, you've got the art there, Small Layout Design Handbook. This has absolutely outsold all expectations. We're on the second print run and we're nearly out of it.
Right.
So it just keeps selling and selling and selling. And the difference between these two is, I think, the title. Now, you and I were chatting before about why do some videos do well and some videos not? And we're like, it's the same modelling.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the same person. It's the title. So this one's called The Art of Railway Modelling. And I feel that's less accessible, even though it's very similar than Small Layout Design. So I've got a book that's sort of 50-60% there called Small Layout Design Companion.
Hey.
Right, so it's basically it's just like this again. So this book, which is more about the theory, so there'll be a bit of theory, but people keep asking me, how do I build these cameo boxes?
Yeah.
So this is a customer's layout here. But how do I build this? How do I go about it? And they're dead simple, so I'll just do a few sketches and talk about that. And then they've got lots of plans in.
Well, that's what I think's lovely. I was going to say about the other ones you do get when James showed me Corrish in the Model Railway Companion just before the video, and I was like, oh, you've drawn my little track plan, and your drawings are so lovely that sort of accompany them.
So yeah, these are like ideas, almost like a notebook, sketchbook idea. So you get a couple of almost postcard views and sort of an idea of how to turn that prototype into a model. And it might not be anything you've ever considered, but I'm hoping they're almost instructional, so that actually by looking at how I looked at a prototype and turned it into a compact model, that helps others. And I've got, another book's worth, and so it felt like rather than just let them float around and do nothing, I'll stick them in a book and stick in something. This sounds a bit like, almost like a mercenary. I'm just doing it for the money.
You should have done it.
It's basically the front of it. Yeah, chuck in how do you make them with some more plans, and that's what the second one of those is going to be.
Okay.
God,
when you were talking about Pete Waterman and you were talking, obviously his layout is an absolute massive Guinness World Record break, and you should have been like, you could make that on a shelf, IKEA shelf.
Should have taken along the Wrexham Central that's in the workshop. And then there's another couple of things. I know I'm doing a lot of talking, George.
I want to talk about me as well.
It's all right. We'll exhaust the book talk first.
Yes.
There's been you jested about my mindful ballasting video.
Yeah.
Earlier, mindful ballasting. So I've done a few videos where I've kind of explored mindfulness a little bit and thought about what that might mean through the craft. And so there's a sort of, I'd love to write a book that explores how the physical aspects of making a model railway can be explored in a mindful way. And I'm not a mindful practitioner, but I was going to go and speak to some people who are and kind of tie the two things together. And I thought there's a market in there for people who are about our age, who've perhaps been diagnosed with stress by the doctor, that used to love trains but don't know how to make model railways. And it's like this connection piece that goes between the two. So I'd like to think it was something that sat outside. Any of us probably wouldn't buy the book, but would sit in that space that kind of brought people in. So we'll see.
But that would make sense because, at the end of the day, we do it as a hobby to relax and get away from other things. So, there's obviously a connection there.
Yeah. But you were like, I hate ballasting.
I hate ballasting.
But if you listen to my mindful ballasting video and then think about it slightly differently, you might be like, oh, actually.
Yeah, that's what I did. I was watching. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah,
he's enjoying it.
Yeah, I can find a new sort of piece with ballasting.
Well, if you can do the same video for like mindful interior painting on cabs and things, that'd be ace, because that's the worst.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely. Well, there's all sorts of elements that we could look at, but yeah, mindful. And then there is actually. I'll just shut up in a minute. There is. I'll say that there is actually another. So we had Compendium earlier. I talked about Compendium. There's a new product magazine.
Your magazine,
not my magazine. A magazine I'm working with someone on.
Right. Okay.
Which I've kind of hinted at a few times on my blog, but we're not saying much yet. But it's very close to being available.
Is the one I saw?
Yeah. So yeah, I think about the way that these things are produced, and then think, oh, what would that look like in a magazine?
Yeah.
And I think, oh, there isn't a magazine like that at the moment. Ooh. So yeah, we're hoping we can get it out this year, possibly by Worley, and sort of get it in front of people and see what they think. And I think that's very exciting indeed.
So you're going to Worley.
Yes.
Are you going as a punter, or are you thinking of going as an actual?
I will be at Worley theoretically, at the moment, as far as I know, on a layout.
Oh, okay.
So I will hopefully have some time to wander around and talk to people and press the flesh. Because 2 years ago, I was at Worley selling victories, plant industrial victories.
That was when you had the nice setup with the backgrounds and stuff. So, yeah.
So, and then last year I went with you and Steve, and we had a really nice big
it was,
walk around. And this year I've somehow been roped into helping Paul Marshall Potter exhibit his Albion Yard. Exhibit his North American layout.
Right.
So I'm going to take some of my stock down, and we're going to do 1 day of 1970s with his stock and 1 day of the 2000s with my stock. So, so we'll see.
See, that's an interesting point. So I say as a little link, the idea that James and I were discussing doing a joint project for quite a while, and we came up with this idea of the Cambrian and how we could. I like modern things, and you like older things, and
I like modern things too. So it was like a total win-win.
It was, but the idea that you can have the same layout and take something modern and put something older on, and you wouldn't be able to tell, was quite an attractive thing, wasn't it?
It certainly was, and I think it's something that's for anyone out there who's struggling to come up with a defined. They feel like they've almost got a butterfly mind and they can't quite settle on something. If you can work out a relatively blank canvas, you can get away with a lot. And I tend to, when I'm working with customers on layout design, that's one of the things that comes up quite early. You kind of spot quite quickly if someone's a bit, oh, I like this and I like that and I like this and I like that, and then you go, right, okay, what we're going to need to do here is work on something that allows you to kind of just swap. Change the lead actor, change the logo.
We need to do that for me, because I think you got hammered by my messages the other day, didn't you? Saying we'd talk about what I was going to do for the next standard gauge project, and a lot of you guys said that I should do pre-grouping, and I was like, well, I'm not sure about pre-grouping. I like modern things, and I was like, well, maybe I'll do Shrewsbury, maybe I'll do Cola, maybe I'll do this, and you're like, well, okay,
Well,
I don't know.
I think it's a really good point, George, isn't it? Because when George and I last talked, actually, there is up here, isn't it? I don't know. You aren't going to be able to see that, but there's a little blue 101, blue and grey 101, Farish 101 DMU on the shelf here. We were going to do a slice of the Cambrian.
Yes.
So our plan was to build like a 2 metre long,
like a panoramic shot, wasn't it?
But almost like this sort of very narrow viewing window in end, but like obviously longer than this. With just like the line running through, and on one side was going to be almost Penhelig, which is where
I spoke about Penhelig recently.
With the sort of rock cutting along the estuary. And then we were going to have we're going to take our favourite bits, weren't we?
Yes.
So we're going to then basically take there's a crossing keeper's cottage on the line to Aberystwyth that we like. So George actually built.
I've still got that. Yeah, it's in the cupboard at the moment.
Superb. And then I had built previously the bridge at Innislas.
Yes.
So I built another set. I've still got them.
Maybe that project. I keep going back to it though, the idea, and obviously I was on holiday up the Cambrian the day, and it was.
You know what would turn it into happen? It would be if Farish bring out Transport for Wales.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, I think we're both.
If that comes out, it's happening.
It's a goer, yeah.
Because we've got my stock that would sit as the old stock. I sold quite a lot of stock though.
Yeah, because I had the 37s, didn't I? 97, 37, and I ended up selling those. I was thinking, well, I ended up going for my job and things like that, and we couldn't go forward.
And they go for good money, those two.
They did, yeah. They were good though.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, well, I need another conversation about this another day, because if you're to do a Network Rail 97, you don't start with the Farish version.
Oh, really?
You start with a plain one and work it up yourself, because you're more than capable of turning a standard Farish one into a yellow one. But you can then work in the right details, because there's some subtleties on them that aren't in the tooling. So I did a Scottish one.
Yes, I remember that.
It was good fun. So yeah, I think I don't know if N-Gauge is right for you, George, though.
No, I wonder about N-Gauge. I like it when I see it, and I like your stuff, but I don't know. I wondered about the idea. Well, you mentioned the O gauge now. Everything on 5.3s coming out in O, and I'm like, oh my god, I'd love to do. I love the weight of it.
Yeah.
Because I know you try and capture it in N-Gauge, but you can't compare around with O.
No, you just get a smaller space.
Yeah.
That's the difference, isn't it? I mean, you've jested about Shrewsbury a couple of times.
The whole station.
Well, you mentioned the whole station, but you're not Pete Waterman. So
I'm not Pete Waterman, no.
I think, I don't know what, one of the things I talk about in my books actually is about cropping.
Yes.
So if you've got a prototype, you imagine when you're looking at a photo in a book, right? It's been cropped, hasn't it? Someone's taken it. There's a life beyond the edges of the photo, but you can't see it. So if you stood on the platform at Shrewsbury, is it platform 3?
3 or 4.
And you look across at platform 1 with the retaining wall, and then took a photo.
Yeah, that's what.
And then built the box, and had the retaining wall and a platform and a couple of tracks. You've got a closely cropped version of Shrewsbury, and you can do it in any scale. But O would be lovely, because we were chatting about that Haydn or Heljan 153.
153. Yeah.
For it's totally for its play value, because it's got like sound fitted. So I grew up on that sort of stuff when I was younger, going to uni and after college and uni and stuff. And you got the noises, haven't you? So you got the lights and the play value, but you got the noises. Like the door buzzer just before it goes, and then it revs up just before it moves.
That's why I want the 153.
Exactly,
Yeah.
You are totally there. And
Yeah,
like,
I love that.
Oh, but actually, the 153 in N would reach from about here to about here.
Oh no,
it's huge.
Yeah,
it's absolutely huge. And I was thinking, could I get away with one on an IKEA lac shelf? You know, they do a long one, 1.6. Well, there's a blank wall, you can't see it over there.
Oh right.
Yeah, I was thinking, I could maybe I could justify.
But that's what I want to do. And even in 00, if I went for the 158 in 00,
yes.
I want sound, but a snippet, so you can have it come in and make its funny little noises and go again. You don't need a whole layout to run it on.
No.
The 158 is quite long, isn't it, in 00 even? So.
Well, that's why N-gauge comes in, isn't it?
Yes. Well, that's the idea.
But the funny thing is, if you don't show the second car, you don't need the second car.
No.
So you've got your empty station. You could have the buffer stops, couldn't you? So you've got your sort of layout that's perhaps be about 60 centimeters long. If you did about 60 centimeters in 00, the car itself, one single car is going to be about 30 something, and then arranged it so that you only needed one of the 158 cars to appear. You've got all the sound, all the lights, and you only need to have fiddle yard space for one. And then if you want to go somewhere else, you can get the other car out and play with it properly. Yeah,
because I think somebody brought up the idea of doing Aberystwyth as a section because of being terminus. Like, I think it's your Wrexham, isn't it, that comes in, and you could just have the buffers at the end and things.
Or Porthelly.
Yeah. So that brings me on to talking a bit more about me and the idea of what I can do, because obviously I spoke to you guys about what you think I should do. I want James's opinion as basically a professional layout designer. What I could do, my modelling room. Pendray's gone now, that was in there. I've got a little bit of space, but I think I don't even know what I want to run. And you think pre-grouping, I don't know what to go for. So
well, you were telling me before about I know ever since I've known you, it's always been Talyllyn.
Yeah, it has been.
And ever since the first time I came across you on the forums years ago in NGRM, it was Talyllyn.
From the beginning.
Absolutely amazing. And I feel like through the channel, your passion for that hasn't diminished, but you might have run its course to some degree.
Yes.
But when you and I first met, you were keen to model anything. Like, I don't care. You suggest it, James, we'll do it. So you were very open to ideas. And I wonder whether your problem now is that because you're quite open to what to do next, there's too many things to choose from.
Yes. The problem is, I can't remember, it was Tim Minchin said that if you open your mind too much, your brain will fall out. And I think that's happened.
Okay.
The idea with the Talyllyn, I don't know if you picked up on the Moss video, that I'm not that happy with it, and I don't think it's the layout. I think it's that I've almost got fatigue from doing the Talyllyn projects, because obviously there was Pendray, before that was Town Wharf, and I always have something Talyllyn, and the idea of doing standard gauge I think is a release from that, to sort of recover really and get my mind back on it eventually. I want to finish Nagwernal, which I will do, and I was fiddling with the Moss last night. I'm getting there with that, so that'll be okay. But I think what I need is a real fresh sort of idea. So.
Well, that's an interesting reflection. Can I just say something left field again?
Go on.
There's a thing on. Oh, what's that saying?
Don't worry about that.
There's a thing I wrote a long time ago on my blog, which seems very pertinent now. And you might not like it because it doesn't fit with your YouTube videos.
No, I'm not going to like this.
But complete or finished. And I think one of the biggest things, the biggest releases to me, was when I realised that complete and finished were different things.
Yes.
And so technically complete, you're not. Nagwernal is not technically complete.
No, it's not. No.
But you may be finished, and that's okay.
Okay.
And at that moment, sell it. And so what I found was, I started doing this. I started going through my stuff. And work. You have like these millstones around your neck because you think I'll buy that because one day I'm going to do that. And these things build up, and then slowly I just felt like I had more and more and more and more and more, and I started selling them. So that was a big release. And then this distraction thing was really good for me, because then when I released, I then could see some of these other things, and I remembered. For me, I started to connect back to childhood. Was just the first draw, and that's how the American stuff started. So in my workshop, guys, I've got this Canadian HO scale shelf, right? Doesn't
Yes.
doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't give me any money.
The one above the bench.
There is some stuff on the channel about it, but it isn't about that. It's about somewhere that's totally separate to the day job. I think if you want, maybe what you need to do is do two things. You need to have something that works for people on the channel, if that's what you want to keep growing the channel and keep people engaged and teach them stuff and get them excited, because you do a great job of that. That's kind of mainstream or pre-grouping or whatever it is. And then there's just perhaps something little, if you've got the headspace, this is, but something little that when you can't be asked doing that, you've just got the release that's pure. And that might be Shrewsbury, or it might be, so actually, like, look, we've got an Irish 00 gauge loco here behind me. You don't even see this here. This is all a collection of my random stuff. I'm going to build an Irish layout next. I've never been to Ireland, and never seen any of this stuff. I just fancied it. It's like a breath of fresh air, isn't it, to try something new?
Yeah.
When it's done, I'll move on.
So that's, I think for me, the one, I said it before, and I don't think it is just because I've just been to London, but I've always wanted to do a shot of the underground because it's so different. And again, we used to go to London for our holidays, and it's the smell and things like that. And I love it, so different. Then I looked at the price of the underground stock, and it was going to cost like £1,000 for an 8-car. So yeah, that stopped. But I think that would be the type thing. Shelf layout, because it's just a tube. I don't know, maybe that would be something I do.
Well, what it needs is, it needs a gateway model. So like that Haydn 153, or Haldeshan, however you say it, 153, would be a gateway model for me. If I bought it, it would be a gateway to it. Right? I build something for it, and it may go somewhere, or it may just be the one thing I do on that scale. The gateway model for you will be whatever you're browsing Rails or other shops available, and you spot something on discount, and you're like, ooh, quite fancy that, and buy it. And that's then, right, I'm going to build something for this next, and that's the thing. Yeah,
well, I have got, I mean, I'm not going to say what it is at the moment, but we discussed a particular model I'm going to be building soon, which doesn't go on any of my layouts, but it's something I've wanted to build for a while, and the chap who produces the kit contacted me the other day and said, do I want one to build? And I was like, definitely.
Okay.
That'll be an odd one. I was asked if I was going to build a layout for that particular model last night. I don't think it's a line I'll ever want to do. So it's going to be a standoff model. So maybe that's the same sort of thing. I don't know. It's not something I would ever do. It's not even a railway I'm not bothered about actually as a prototype, but it'll be different to what I do. In a way.
It's fresh.
Fresh.
Fresh. Put the Talyllyn down for a bit. Just enjoy it as your own thing maybe for a while. I mean, stepping outside of what you've done before, isn't it? Sometimes is the breath.
Well, I think that's the other thing. I haven't brought onto the channel too much, but the 7 1/4 inch in the garden that I'm working on at the moment, and that's been. I remember, in fact, I think you contributed to that discussion as well, because I remember when it was one of the first coming around the garden, we were like, this is going to be a flower meadow, which is at the moment is just like a field, and we were saying, I don't know if I should go 16mm or 7 1/4 inch. They've both got their benefits, and you're like, the money is going to be the difference in the track, I suppose, isn't it? And then the next week, I think I found 250 meters very, very cheap of 7 1/4. And then the diesel I found cheap as well, so that was that sorted. But that's, as I'm going out to do that, I almost feel like the Talyllyn project and other projects inside are a weight. Where when I go out, I'm in the fresh air.
Just describe that same feeling.
It's the same. It's almost like. Well, I say a breath of fresh air because you are outside, but it's a different environment. I'm not upstairs in my room, and it's different. So maybe when Nagwernal's finished, which I don't think is going to take too much, I'll put layouts aside and go on to
layout modelling projects inside, but the layout outside sounds good.
I
mean, it's like a totally different. I've built a garden railway. It lives. It's a real railway.
It is.
It's very different.
It's got a very different feeling.
It does.
And we do down. I took the kids down at Town Wharf down to Left, and they always ask them to see the little trains in the garden, and there's something quite magical about it in the garden as opposed to in your room.
There is. I think these days it can be quite an expensive hobby, but with your 7 1/4, it's almost limit because the expensive things is much higher. It kind of really does focus you down to that.
It does.
You only need one engine.
It's only going to be one engine, and it's quite funny. I had a few people at the TR who were like, "Can I bring my engine down?" And some messes they've got a 7 1/4 Corrish Hunslet, and they were like, "Can I bring that?" It's like, yes. My next door neighbour's hopefully getting a traction engine or a steam tractor or something very soon, and he was like, "Can I?" So I was like, "We'll have an open day and we'll have that, and maybe have some layouts out and stuff, and maybe we'll do like an actual thing, which would be nice." But
I've pondered doing that for a long time. It'd be ace.
Have you?
Yeah. Some kind of event.
Yeah, like an event, like
Not like a
like
traditional exhibition,
yes,
but something that brought together like-minded people. Because the exhibition tends to be broad church. But
yes, it does. Yeah.
they're sort of like-minded. So whether it's for me, it might be previous customers or whatnot. But for you, it might be channel members or whatever, or friends or whatever. But yeah, bring them together for an event.
That'd be smart,
amazing.
wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, maybe. Well, talking about the price of the 7.25 though, obviously the diesel, I had to buy the diesel, and we're actually, I say my neighbour, he's a tractor engineer, so I'm very lucky to live next door to him, and he loves the project. So he's got I said the problem with the 7.25 is you see people and 5-inch riding with this little train in front of them. I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to be on a railway. So I've built the wagons and stuff to they're almost wheelbarrow size. They're usable. And the diesel, you sit inside it, and the only thing then I was like, well, it is battery powered. It's got massive batteries, and he was like, it doesn't have to be. It can be diesel. And he's got me this tiny, it's about this big, little diesel engine. So it's going to be converted to an actual diesel engine. So it'll be thunking around the garden and stinking exhaust.
Yeah, because you just drive a generator with the diesel engine.
Yeah. So that's it'll be great.
I think it sounds great fun. I think the biggest thing is just like, it sounds to me like you get excited if someone was giving you advice, wouldn't they say, what's getting you excited at the moment? Well, that sounds like it to me.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. And I shouldn't worry about the rest of it. It could tick along. People will send you stuff to do on the channel, and you can do that. And
they do. Yeah.
You know, you and I have wanted to do a joint project for a while. I think we need to see how work goes.
Yeah.
And if time allows, then we could do something. But if it doesn't, then
I think time's going to be a big thing. Yeah. Like I say, obviously, I said on the last live stream that I'm starting my job. Well, we've got last week of some holidays next week, isn't it? And then I'll be back into school.
Yeah.
The idea of starting a model club in school sounds exciting, and the head's really up for that. So that would be brilliant.
Nice,
and as already, like I say, I work in schools, and kids know the channel and things. So it's quite nice. In fact, in the one school, I used to have on. Obviously, we've got a projector on the screen and things. So it is a big TV screen now. But it would cast what's on your laptop up onto it, and I would have my Corrish on the background. And they're saying, where is that? And I'm like, well, that's in my room, it's tiny. And then they start asking more and more questions, and what I found is the one, I think on just before Christmas, we were like, oh, we'll put some on the telly, what do you want to watch as a treat? And they're like, can we watch a channel? I was like, yeah, we can, yeah. But we came back after Christmas, and there was 2 or 3 kids came up and said, can I show you some on my phone? And I was like, right. And it was photos that they'd got layouts, secondhand layouts for Christmas. And it was like, oh my God, it's got them into this thing, and it's going to roll now. And it was that was really weird.
Yeah. Well, it's not weird. It's wonderful, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's wonderful.
Being an educator's all about, whether it's science or trains, eh?
Yeah. Well, there we go. I got both now. So, yeah. So there we go. So we don't know what I'm going to do for the next project. Maybe it isn't allowed at the moment. Maybe I step back a little bit and do the miniature railway instead. It can still be on the channel and things. The idea that I'm starting a job, I'm not sure how often videos are going to come out, and the same with the joint project. But yeah, I suppose if we're going to wrap it up, just wanted to say thank you for not only having me in the book, because that was an honour in itself, but having me here. And well, we have no biscuits, but we will eat them in a minute.
Yeah, definitely.
We will have the biscuits. So. Very worried about choking on screen.
It's been a pleasure, George. It's been a pleasure to get you in the book. Your modelling is great. Love stuff. Oh, you're amazing. You're amazing.
Well,
you're amazing.
The thing is,
George and I met. Well, we've known each other a long time, but we met a couple of years ago, perhaps. And when I was looking around to try and find modellers in this area of North Wales, and there's just like no one.
Yeah.
And George isn't that close, but he's close enough. And we've become friends. So this is two mates having a chat. This isn't like James Hilton Custom Model Railways and George Williamson models.
Well, the thing is, before we put the live stream on, we were chatting anyway, and I was like, we shouldn't chat now. We should chat on the channel, because that's what we're talking in the same way anyway, aren't we?
It is. It's like you've joined us for a coffee, but I think I don't know about what your viewers think, but I think the good thing about having a regular slot for a video is people know when to come back for it.
Yeah.
Well, YouTube's got plenty of bloody subscriber features.
Yeah.
And you can get around that, and I don't think anyone would want you to feel beholden to it.
No.
But when the time comes, you've got a good base there to build on, and if you want to then go, I think doing something totally different would open up another market, and I bet everyone who's on the channel already would still really enjoy seeing whatever you do. whether it's standard gauge or whatnot, you know.
Yeah.
Modelling stuff, and your enthusiasm, that's what people are tuning in for. So
I think the one thing I said about it was an honour to be in the book, I mentioned this to my wife actually the other day, that with you as an individual, James, is that if you give a compliment, I know that it's a genuine one, because when he doesn't like something, you do tell me as well, and I think that's it's a nice thing. Both obviously it's hard when you go, well, that's terrible, but if you like something, you do like it. I guess you know where you stand with it, and that's why I think it's almost an emotional thing when you do say I'll be in the book and stuff.
Well, you know, I just think you're a good enough modeller to be able for me to say no, you can do better than that. But I don't recall ever saying it, but I must have said it at some point.
Right. The last thing is obviously the video is different because it's the other way round. I don't know if the chat's on, so what I might do is just pick it up before we finish and see if anyone's got any questions, or if anyone's got any questions for James, because obviously, right, there are people talking. Let's turn the camera around. Yeah, you can see the thingy's a bit closer there. This.
So George is now scrolling through the messages, hence why he's looking down.
Look at that. So there's Morge there. This is Mr. Webster. It's a friend I had in high school. I bumped into him in Abu Dhabi, actually, didn't I, Chris? That was my high school nickname. What are the biscuits? Well, we were discussing the biscuits because obviously you have...
they look like digestives, don't they?
They do. And I went to Spa on the way up.
And
obviously they're not going to have
to actually.
They do, but actually the biscuit itself is a tasty, which I don't know if any...
No product placement. We had to pay for these.
A little bit of product. No. I don't know if anyone knows the difference between McVitie's digestives and McVitie's tasties.
They taste like they're smaller.
They're smaller. They're definitely smaller. They're like narrow gauge biscuits.
Anyway.
A lot of technique applies to smaller scales across the board, like in but get a bit closer to engineering when you hit. Yeah, well, that's the thing. And like I mentioned, my next door neighbour, we're quite good friends. You know, I children play and things like that now. In fact, I took them up I bought the memberships for the Talyllyn when we were on a holiday, and they came up and they thought it was lovely, and so that was brilliant.
Yeah.
But he's just like, he's one of those guys that if he needs a tool, he'll just make it. He's so incredible.
Yeah. So I don't think you're gonna have any trouble there.
No, the engineering side, he's there to help with that, and I'm doing the hard work, right? Get the layout done, buy something cheap to run and test, and buy an expensive, nice models to put on it. And feel much less ripped off having somewhere nice to run nice things. Yeah. Nangwyn, I was looking at Nangwyn last night, and one of the things you'll see on probably next week's video is that the colours, I think, of what I've done so far was a little bit too intense, and I've actually sprayed I've airbrushed some paler colours on top, and it's almost made it feel a bit colder and more autumnal. So I think looking at it now, I'm almost a little bit happier anyway. Okay. So that's good. What's the point of the third rail on those 3 rail layouts? Is that the old stuff, do you mean? Like,
well, I don't know what they're asking, but if they're talking about old-fashioned Hornby tinplate, it's AC, isn't it? That's why you've got a common return, so they work differently.
Yeah.
And modern, obviously, it's third rail is third rail.
Third rail, yeah. Yeah, because the underground is 4 rails, isn't it?
Underground's 4 rails, yeah.
4 rails.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get. Well, you won't be able to see it because you'll be hidden behind the platform.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Let's see if anyone's getting more. Those seem like some pretty useful books. I should cop a pair of them. Yeah, they're really good, and I think one of the things I actually really like, and I didn't realise it would be that effective until I held these books, is the orientation. That it's landscape. And James keeps saying it's flickable. It really is flickable. It's like, well, it's like,
because you can do this.
Yeah, they flop over, don't they?
Yeah, you can flick to what you want. You know,
it is flickable. That should be like.
Well, it's on the James Hilton look through the book video. Yeah,
that's flickable. There you go. It's flickable.
Yeah.
So there we go. I think that's gonna just about wrap it up.
Very good.
So thank you all very much for coming to join. I know it was a last minute thing. I think I put it on last night that we were going to do it, and oh my god, it's been 50 minutes.
Yeah, it's been good fun.
Yeah. I'm not leaving.
No, we're not going home yet.
No, I'm staying here for a little bit.
Hopefully, going to have some lunch.
Yes, yes, I need the coffee because I'm lagging now. So thank you very much. You might well see James on here in the future.
Perhaps.
Maybe down sussing out my garden railway.
Yeah. George does appear on my blog very occasionally as well, actually, don't you?
Yeah.
You have been known to be in the background of photographs.
I am, yes. I'm quite good at being in the background. So, right.